So see if this sounds familiar. I, Susan, take thee, Bill, to be my beloved, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. Since 1549, we've heard some version of this wedding vow. Now that's a long time. It makes sense that these words would be deeply ingrained in the psyche of many a generation. That is, up until the 1970s, at which point marriage rates began a steady decline globally. Interesting little fact. This vow has been ringing through my head all month as we examined sickness, and I myself became sick. Nothing life-threatening, call it a bad cold, call it bronchitis, but it's been something in that territory. More on that later. And nothing like getting better to once again marvel at and appreciate this body's ability to recover to a relative normal level of health that it's been experiencing, because it won't always be so, but it is today. It is today. But what struck me as odd about this phrase, this wedding vow, was that this promise is made so often to another, before we've ever made such a promise to ourselves. Or perhaps ever were encouraged to do so. I mean, why wouldn't we be encouraged to first make that kind of vow to take care of ourselves, to take care of this home, before offering our love and care to something or someone else? Doesn't that make sense? How can we know how to care for another unless we've practiced staying healthy and caring for ourselves when we get sick to whatever degree we're able? Yet that is not the ethos of the culture we've been steeped in. Business as usual, which is the cultural messaging as Joanna Macy has thought of it, it's not here to take care of you, to take care of us. Instead, we are rewarded for our busyness, for our spending, and frankly, up until the pandemic, many of us were expected to go to work even if we were sick. That's the culture that we've been steeped in. So, whether we were or we weren't encouraged to take care of ourselves up until this point, well, what about now? I mean that. What about now? Why not? We only get one of these. We only get one of these in this lifetime. And we've certainly put some miles on it, given it some wear and tear. Even if it feels unfamiliar, how about treating it as good as you'd treat something that you value or love? What about that, at the very least? Can't we muster that? And if some of you still need a little more encouragement to do so, well, we need only look as far as the noble truths to be encouraged to let go of as much suffering as possible and minister to the suffering that is here. And then there are the heart cultivation practices of the Brahma Viharas, all of them. But to love our sickness back into the fold of mindfulness. Okay, that's my intention. That's been my intention. That's my vow to myself. That's my vow to all of you and to all the living things, to love everything into the fold of mindfulness. All right, it's a big intention to learn to leave nothing out, to include everything. But oh my goodness, may I keep learning the ways of loving everything into the fold. Less Susan, right? And more caring attention, more affectionate, loving attention that's not judgmental and that's not opinionated. Feel into that attitude again and again and again. May I keep orienting that way. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm not perfect at that endeavor, but that's the aim. That's just the orientation. I notice when I've strayed a little bit and I keep making the course correction. That's all we can ever do is just keep making the course correction. May we keep making the course correction to love everything into the fold of mindfulness. So, intentions are potent when they are recollected and spoken. The commitment is reinforced. It's reinforced, and that's a commitment we make to ourselves, and it's a commitment that we make to growing our hearts. I mean, what a good thing to do in this lifetime. And we'll have plenty of practice with these bodies to keep learning how to love into the fold. If we truly consider them and the complexity of them and what they need. You see, intentions, they put a mindfulness stake in the ground that says right here, this is where I want to remember to bring mindfulness to mind. Because right here, in this moment, learning to stay healthy, it takes work. Just as being sick takes work. Just as caring for these bodies, caring for their breathing, caring for their heart-mind, it all takes work. But I see these as a labor of love, because it is about training this heart of mine. This is a practice. It's a practice to keep growing the heart, to be wise, to be compassionate like a mother. A mother doesn't know every move. A mother's just being attentive and doing their best to try to be responsive as skillfully as possible. This is what we're aiming for. This is what we're aiming for, to keep shaping our heart in that direction. It's a labor of love to steward these organisms through life, through thick and thin. The practice of caring for these bodies and sickness and in health, well, it asks us to keep track of what's happening inside and outside, to notice, feel, to respond wisely and kindly in the present moment. And so being sick, you really have a chance to exercise the muscle of compassion. In fact, sickness is what creates the conditions for compassion to arise, according to the teachings, right? So what if this perspective was held? That it's a labor of love to learn, to consider deeply and heartfully what is needed to relieve suffering at any moment in one's life. Because you never know what's around the corner. Never know. So, having made my vow to myself, which I say every day, by the way, to love everything into the fold of mindfulness, the little mantras that are ingrained in here. This is what I practice in the rain, in the sunshine, when I'm sick, when I'm healthy. Recollect this when I'm out in the world, because I need that reminder. I forget, so I need reminders. So a little catchy mantra is what does it for me. So now I'm going to ask you to just take a moment yourself. Just settle back for a moment. Just settle back. We'll continue in a sec, but I want you to just take a minute or two to kind of muse with that for yourself. What would your intention be? What words would you use to orient your heart in that way toward loving, vowing to somehow, I'm going to take care of this for the whole of his life in some way, or I'm going to support it in this way. What would be your vow? What intention be? And all right, if you'll come back in, and I'll just finish a little bit with how I cared for the well-being of this organism all last week. How I tried to honor that vow. It was with a simple question, okay? I really do try to keep it simple. It's what is needed. What is needed now to feel a little less suffering and feel a little more comfortable. Feel into ease of well-being. And I ask these questions, what's needed now, all day long, just repeatedly. Because it helps me wake up when I forget, and it helps me to notice when I've kind of slipped off the mark and back into bad habits, or just kind of I'm getting a little casual in my attending. So whether I'm sick or well, what is needed now to support well-being? And so when I checked in with the body, well, sometimes the body wanted to sleep and it wanted to rest, or sometimes if it had been sleeping a lot and laying down, it wanted to get up and it wanted to stretch and move a little bit, slowly, of course, but just to feel a little more comfortable in its skin. And when it wanted to sleep, I gave it what it needed. I didn't fight it, just allowed it to do that. And it wanted plenty of warm liquid, so I gave it lots and lots of tea. And I checked in with breathing, because breathing definitely was compromised. And so I wanted to be propped up. The body wanted to be propped up in bed, even at night, because otherwise I would just get into coughing jacks. So sleeping upright, breathing was easier. It's like, okay, so that's how I'm going to sleep tonight. No big deal. Just give it what it needs. And then I considered, what does the heart need? Body, breath, heart, mind. What does the heart need? Well, the heart kind of wanted to be soothed in some way, and so I actually played a little music, which is unusual for me these days. I used to always play music. I don't play much these days. But I turned on some music. And then other times, it just wanted silence. Absolute silence. And then other times, just to sit and listen to the birds. So many birds around here. It's like a whole song. And then the mind. What did the mind want? Well, Sometimes I read a page or two to the mind, and other times I gave the mind something beautiful to attend to other than its drifty, foggy thoughts. I would sit outside and gaze at the sky, or I'd listen to music again, something that gave the mind a wholesome object to attend to that wasn't just focusing on sickness, something uplifting. So there were little things that I did to support the well-being of this body. And of course I did some mindful reflection of retracing my steps to find out how it was I got sick, which was that I was around sniffly kids. And I have a weak immune system. And so the learning is, when in doubt, wear a mask. I didn't wear a mask this time. When in doubt, wear a mask. That was my takeaway from that. But to all of you, my wish is that you form the intention, you play with this idea to form the intention to care for your well-being, to make a vow to do that. We get only one of these in this lifetime. Let's steward it as best as we can, in sickness and in health, all the way up to the end. We can do this. It's for our welfare. We're worth it, and these human bodies are worth it. They're a miracle, what they can do. All right? Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention. So everyone, if you will, just open up the body, make some space. Give it some loving. Take your time. Give the body what it needs to feel just 1% more comfortable in its skin. And if you haven't already, gently close the eyes, let go of the outside world. The show's inside. And draw the attention to breathing. Notice and feel the rhythm of breathing. Each breath, a breath of life. Let whatever busyness remains in the mind fall to the background. And in the foreground, bring attention to the felt experience of this body in the here now. Let's together form the intention in our hearts to love everything into the fold of mindfulness that we encounter for the next little while. Let's see what that feels like. Love everything into the fold of mindfulness. whatever is happening inside. Love everything into the fold of mindfulness. And with the next exhalation, settle back and soften the grip of attention. And feel the body sitting here. Appreciate its aliveness. As it sits here in good company. Breathe and appreciate the good company. May we all learn to care for ourselves in sickness and in health till our last breath. Oh my goodness, thank you all. Let me stop the recording.